Yo, what's going on, guys? We're back with another video. I apologize for not being able to get one up yesterday. I was dealing with a lot of stuff. I got it up on, I got part of the lineup up on Twitter. I do want to be able to hit the retweets and like goals today. 5 retweets, 10 likes. Not too much, I hope. Just because I don't have a ton of followers yet, so we're gonna start small and hopefully go bigger with that. But last night's slate was a bit tough. In terms of my lineup, I know I only posted half on Twitter, so only you guys only got half, and unfortunately, DeAndre Hunter had to be in that half that I posted. So I apologize for that, guys. Yeah, he had 2 fouls on the first minute of the game, so not really much I could do there in terms of expectations. But yeah, he was a really rough one. He's one of those guys that either goes off for 40 or does what he did yesterday and literally scores 6 fantasy points. So I apologize for that. But like I said, there's nothing I could really do. But looking at today's slate looks really fun. Like actually fun, not like really good, but it looks like a lot of fun. There's not going to be a lot of guys that have ownership up to the 50%. There's a lot of value plays today, a lot of different ones. So in terms of like ownership, it'll be interesting. You'll just have to pick the right value guys and go from there. So. I will list off, the top 5 of who I think are good values tonight. No, we'll go top 3 or 4, just because I don't want this to be 25 minutes long, because that's a long time to look at my face. Yes, I will make that joke every video until I figure out how to get my computer screen up. But for point guards, 2 guys I really like up at the 8K range. Kyle Lowry. Obviously, it's going to be Kyle Lowry, and if Fred VanVleet plays, it'll be Fred VanVleet. And that'll be it in terms of stars for Toronto. Siakam out, Gasol out, Powell out. They have like nothing left. So obviously someone's gonna have to step up big. VanVleet, I believe, is still a game time decision. I don't know if he's questionable or probable. We'll take a look at him when I get there. But Kyle Lowry, Kemba Walker, really like both those guys. Kemba Walker. Going against Detroit tonight. Again, no Gordon Hayward for the Celtics. No Marcus Smart. Kemba Walker will have a lot of usage. Last game had the same ramifications, and he put up a 32-5-3, and with 1 block had 41 fantasy points. So, and that was against Dallas, who's actually pretty good defensively against the point guard. Tonight they're going against Detroit. Not so much as good against the point guard, but I'll get to a really good play in the Celtics also a little bit later. But in terms of the point guard position, Kemba's a really nice play tonight. And then in terms of value plays, at the point guard position, there's not a ton. You could go with like Goran Dragic is a game time decision tonight by the looks. He is upgraded to questionable. I think he was doubtful before. So he went from doubtful to questionable. So there's a chance he plays. Even if he plays, though, I still don't know how much I love him at a 5.2 price. But he is coming back from injury, and he did play pretty well before he got that injury. So he's definitely in consideration. Lonzo Ball, we're still trying to figure out if he can play basketball or not. He's a guy that can either go off for 40 or score you 10 points. Kind of like the DeAndre Hunter of yesterday, I feel like. So I'm probably not going to go with him personally just because of what happened with DeAndre Hunter yesterday. I think they're the same kind of player in terms of if they play a lot of minutes, they'll score decently, but there's always that risk if they only play like 20 minutes, 25 minutes at the most. Lonzo's actually only hit 30 minutes one time in the past like 6 games or 7 games. So he has a possibility though he's going against Golden State, so he could get some swipes where I think his value really comes up big. So Lonzo is a possibility in that 5.3 range, but meh. And then we'll have to watch to see if Jeremy Lamb plays. If Jeremy Lamb does not play, really good value play today, Aaron Holiday. He's priced at 4.3. He would slide into that spot for Jeremy Lamb if Jeremy Lamb does miss. So Aaron Holiday is a possibility going against Sacramento. Not a hugely attractive game to me, but if we're looking for value, he is one guy that I'd be like, okay, you can go with him. But that's it really in terms of point guards for me. Going to shooting guard, highest player on the shooting guard slate, Bradley Beal. Really love him tonight. As I mentioned, Toronto has literally nobody, and they're going to be playing with a lot of reserves tonight, and this should open up the field for Bradley Beal to be able to score a lot of points. I really like the Wizards tonight in terms of matchup, just because, like I said, they're dipping so far into their bench. Toronto is, so Bradley Beal definitely on a radar tonight for me. Another guy who's definitely on the radar for me, who's actually struggled in the past couple games here, is Jrue Holiday. Yes, he did put up a 45 against Brooklyn, but last game against Minnesota, he only put up a 30, and that's not terrible, but for a guy that's priced at 8.6, don't love to see that. He's just been struggling with a shot. He hasn't really got a shot to go down a lot. He hasn't eclipsed anything really above. He had one 29-point game. Everything else has been in the low 20s to high teens. So he is risky, but I do think he has some really good upside going against Golden State tonight. Next guy I will go to is going to be Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins is a possibility if, again, Karl Anthony Towns does miss. Karl Anthony Towns is questionable for today, so we'll have to see what happens there. They are going against Denver, though. That's not going to be a really high-scoring game without Towns. It won't be really a high-scoring game anyway. Denver's defense is very good. So Andrew Wiggins, definitely a possibility at the price of 7.9, below 8K, so that's pretty good value. But I'm not convinced on him just quite yet. Now let's take a look at Van Vliet. So he is questionable still. Obviously, if he can go, he'll go, because they have no one else. So if Fred Van Vliet plays, oh sorry, I'm shaking my camera. If Fred Van Vliet does play, I do see him getting a lot of points tonight. He's priced down to 7.1 just because he's so questionable. It's going to be interesting to see if he's on a minutes limit, but there's just not a lot of things that the Raptors can do if he does play to keep him off the floor, because outside of Lowry, they don't have a volume scorer really outside of Van Vliet, because there's no Siakam, and that really hurts them. So if Van Vliet comes back, I like Van Vliet tonight, especially at the 7.1 price. And then dipping down into value picks, guys like Josh Richardson can definitely cover their price tag pretty good. He got 33 in his last game against Miami, was finally taken off the minutes limit that he was on. Played 36 minutes in that game at 17 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, and a block to go with that. So it wasn't even a huge defensive game for him. And that's nice to see because he was dealing with wrist pain before that game, so I was actually unsure of playing him. But now it seems like he's doing fine, and he looks a lot better. So I really like Josh Richardson here. I mean, they're still saying he's dealing with the injury, but considering he still scored 17 points, he did shoot 6 for 17, which isn't great. But if he gets more shots to go in, he could be a really nice value play today at 5.4. 5.4. So I think that's a really good price for him. Dipping even lower, Dylan Brooks from Memphis going against Cleveland. Cleveland, not the greatest defensive team in terms of their backcourt. I know I said that last time when I who did I play? I played someone against their backcourt, and they just did not do well. Regardless, Dylan Brooks, one of those guys that really hits from three. Like I said, Cleveland not great defensively against the three-point line. So Dylan Brooks is a guy that really is the only attractive factor in that Memphis versus Cleveland game outside of maybe Kevin Love. But in terms of guard, Dylan Brooks is really the only guy I like in that game. And I like him in general, too. I'm going to run him in my lineup just because I think he has really good upside tonight. He plays good defense, so I think if he combines the offense and the defense, which he's kind of struggled to do, but he can go off for 40. So I will be playing Dylan Brooks unless something changes in terms of value plays. And then digging even deeper, there's not a huge bunch of value, but Bruce Brown is definitely in play tonight going against Boston. There's no Luke Kennard today, no Blake Griffin, so Bruce Brown should get some more minutes at the 2 and the 3 with no Kennard. So he's one of those guys that can score a lot of points really quickly. He scored 40 fantasy points against Washington on the 16th. So he is a guy that definitely is on my radar. Just because he's going against Boston, he's not my top priority in terms of value plays, but he's definitely in there in terms of a guy you can sprinkle in your lineup for sure. So Bruce Brown definitely in there. And then going any lower than him, really risky. Langston Galloway, I guess you could play. He's priced at 3.8. He'll pick up a lot of minutes tonight for Luke Kennard as well. it's basically a coin flip between him and Bruce Brown in terms of who's going to actually score more fantasy points, because they both play very similar minutes, and they're very similar players. Outside of, Bruce Brown likes to shoot a little more, Galloway likes to drive a little more. So those are two guys that you could definitely watch out for. And even a guy like Patrick McCaw. He played 27 minutes against Detroit. Just not a high usage guy. Only scored 2 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists against Detroit. But he did play 27 minutes. So at a guy who's priced at $3,900, that's not too bad in terms of value. Playing Washington tonight, one of the worst defensive teams in the league. So you could see him being used in terms of shooting, assisting, rebounding. I like McCaw. Not my favorite value play, but he's definitely in there. And then dipping any lower than that, really risky, but you could go Tony Snell. Tony Snell could go off for. He's one of those guys that if his shots aren't falling, he's totally irrelevant in fantasy. But someone's got to score for Detroit tonight, outside of Drummond, who probably should do a lot of it. But outside of him and Rose, someone else has got to score too. So it's just all about picking the right piece in this game. Anything lower than that, I wouldn't even try. Let's go to small forwards. So small forward, interesting position today. I do like Brandon Ingram going against Golden State. He's a high usage guy. Had a really great game last game, scoring 34 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, a block, and 3 steals. Put up 55, almost 56 fantasy points. He's definitely a guy that you could try to get to in terms of there's not many stars tonight, so there's not a lot of guys that you have to pay up for. Price at 8-7 with the good matchup. Really like it. The game should stay close. They're two really bad teams, so Brandon Ingram definitely an option tonight. Going a little lower than that, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown still, for some reason, is listed as a small forward on Fanduel, but he is playing shooting guard. He'll pick up a lot of minutes from, obviously, no Marcus Smart, no Gordon Hayward. I'm projecting him to play about 35 minutes in this game tonight going against Detroit. The only risk is Detroit does not have Blake Griffin or Luke Kennard, so it could turn into a blowout because Boston is a really good team. I'm shaking my camera again. I apologize. Let me fix that real quick. He played 35 minutes against Detroit, played 40 against Philly, 34 against Indiana. So he's definitely going to have a lot of time on the court. Scored 40 fantasy points last game against Dallas. He's just one of those guys that's a really good guy in terms of he can do it all. So his price actually is really nice too at $6,800. So really like Jaylen Brown tonight. Dipping a little lower. A guy like Will Barton could be really good. He's a nice mid price at $6,400 going against Minnesota. He's one of the top scoring options for Denver. So I really like Will Barton. And then dipping lower than that, obviously Luke Kennard is out. Marcus Morris going against Miami, not a great matchup for him. Troy Brown could be a good matchup just because he'll play a decent amount of minutes. Had a pretty good game last game, 27 fantasy points. He's been very consistent in the 20s, but he did have 140 game against the Clippers on the 8th. So he's a guy that can go off for 40, but you know that you're going to get a consistent 20 from him at a price of 5.2 isn't terrible. But if he hits that 30 mark or that 40 mark, that's a really nice matchup. And going against Toronto today, that again doesn't have very many bodies, should be a pretty good match for him. Good value play there. And then dipping lower, Jay Crowder going against Cleveland should be a really nice matchup today. Jay's been playing a little bit better as of late. But he's still not my top option in terms of priority. Dipping a little lower, Markieff Morris is one of my favorite value plays on the slate. So obviously with no Blake Griffin, he'll probably be inserted into that starting lineup at the 4, even though FanDuel has him as a 3. Not really sure why. But he's a guy that'll play probably high 20s, low 30s in minutes, which provides an opportunity for him to put up 25 to 30 fantasy points, maybe even 40. Actually, in terms of hitting 40, he hasn't quite done that this year, but he has been pretty good in terms of late. He had, obviously, when Blake Griffin played last game, he only played 15 minutes, had 7 points. But then against Washington, he played 32 minutes, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, steal, had 32 fantasy points there. And then against Houston, he had 25 fantasy points there. So without Blake, And without Kennard, I think Markieff Morris, really nice play tonight. Dipping a little lower, Justin Holiday is an option if there's no Jeremy Lamb today. Admiral Schofield, definitely an option. He played pretty good last game. Only played 17 minutes, but scored 25 fantasy points. So if the Wizards are smart, they'll keep playing this kid. He's actually interestingly gone down in minutes, but his production's still been pretty good. 23, 13, 25 as a 3-8 player. So I will take 25 points from a 3-8 player all day. Obviously, I think he has a higher ceiling than that. Just depends on how many minutes he's going to get. So we'll have to see about that. Is a possible value play, but again, isn't quite my favorite. And then dipping lower than him, don't really love anyone else down here. So let's go to power forward. All right, so power forward is a really interesting spot tonight because obviously there's no Siakam. There's no really huge stars out there except for maybe Porzingis and Adebayo. Adebayo, good option, 9,400. Obviously he had that huge game last game, putting up 50. He's actually put 50 plus in his last 3 games, and one of those games was against Philly, which obviously was a tough matchup going against Joel Embiid. So Bam definitely is a viable option tonight, just because he's proven he can play against tough competition, and he's priced at 9,400, one of the higher prices on the slate. But if you have enough value plays in there, which I think there are plenty of value plays tonight, Bam definitely in play. Porzingis. Porzingis has been awesome since Doncic gone down, which was very unfortunate for him. But for Porzingis, this has been great. I mean, the guy's getting high usage, high minutes. He scored 50 plus in his last 2, and then he had a 49.8 the game before. So that's pretty much another 50 right there. So last 3 games: Miami, Milwaukee, Boston. Not bad teams there. So he's proven he can play against good competition. Going against Philly tonight, obviously going to be a tough one again. But Porzingis, I mean, his usage rate is unbelievable. So definitely could see you sliding him into some lineups. Not a priority, but definitely can see you putting him in. Sabonis and Tatum, like both those guys. Those guys are priced. Sabonis 8,300, Tatum 7,600. Tatum should get a lot of usage without Hayward tonight, as he has since he's been gone. Played 36 minutes, 33 minutes, 37 minutes in his last 3. Fantasy-wise, he hasn't been great, which is why his price dropped a little bit. He dropped down to 7.6, so he has last couple games of 30, 26, and 35. I think he has a nice bounce-back game tonight against Detroit with obviously no Blake Griffin, so it'll probably be a lot of Markieff Morris on him, which I think he can beat athletically. Good player there. Serge Ibaka, price obviously shot up after last game because he had a huge game, 46 fantasy points. Obviously, no Siakam, so he's going to be picking up a lot more minutes. But it's 7.4 for Serge Ibaka is a bit more expensive. I would rather pay the extra 200 for Tatum. I know he's playing Washington, which is a really good matchup, but I mean, I don't like the price point on Serge. I would much rather play a guy that's just below him, Kevin Love, 6'8", going against Memphis. Kevin Love, he's a volume scorer and picks up a lot of rebounds. Had 46 in his last game going against Charlotte. Obviously, that's a really good matchup for him. Memphis a bit tougher, but I still like Kevin Love a lot tonight at the price of 6.8. Going down into value plays. Davis Bertans had a heck of a night the other night. Had 40 fantasy points. Really like him at the price of 6.4. His shots, if they fall, he has a great night. No Hachimura again. He should pick up a lot of minutes in there. Another guy, Frank Kaminsky, really good value play tonight, 5,300. There's no DeAndre Ayton, who injured himself in the last game. Not sure how long he is out, but he is out for tonight. A guy who I like even better, Dario Saric. His point production is awesome when Ayton was off the floor. I mean, the guy was topping out at 40 fantasy points some nights. I really like Saric here at 4,600. 4,600 for a guy who can score 40. I'll take that absolutely. One of the best value plays on the slate, Chris Boucher, priced at 3,500, and also I could see you definitely sliding in Hollis Jefferson. Hollis Jefferson is priced at, he's a little higher, 3,600, so he's only 100 more. But I really like both these guys tonight going against Washington, who cannot defend bigs very well at all, especially without Thomas Bryant. Really like both these guys tonight. I think they'll get good minutes with no Siakam, and really good value plays in my opinion. I could honestly, if you wanted to stack both those guys to save more salary around, I could definitely see that. But as I'll mention in my lineup, I really like Saric tonight. And then at the center position, Drummond, favorite play on the slate, going against Boston. Obviously, the only place that Boston can't really defend that well is the bigs. Obviously, you saw Porzingis go off for 50 against them the other night. Obviously, Drummond's a bit of a different kind of big. He's more of a bang inside kind of guy, which will probably draw more minutes for guys like Cantor and Tice, and outside of Grant Williams. But I still really like Drummond in both those matchups tonight. He should get a lot of volume, especially without Luke Kennard throwing up three-pointers that shouldn't be thrown up. But I really like Drummond tonight a lot. Embiid going against Dallas. Another tough matchup, but it's Embiid. He's priced at 9,800. Scored 57 against Miami, going against Bam Adebayo, who's arguably one of the better centers this year. So Embiid, one of those guys that can go off for 60 in any given night. So really like Embiid tonight, priced at 9,800. Going down a little bit here, Valanciunas. If we knew exactly how many minutes he could play, I would definitely say lock him in because he's going against Cleveland. Not a great defender against bigs. But we just don't know how many minutes he's going to play. So he's a bit of a riskier play, good tournament play. But personally, I'm going to stay away from him for now. And then in terms of other centers, interesting. So there's no Mo Wagner or no Thomas Bryant tonight. So that again opens up the floor for Mahinmi. Price at 4,300 going against Toronto. Again, they're without Marc Gasol. So the bigs obviously are going to be lacking there. So that could be a good spot for Mahinmi. He got 26 fantasy points against Charlotte, had 8.6 rebounds and 3 blocks. Could be another good game for him tonight. Another guy I'm really high on, Enes Kanter. Kanter has looked really good for Boston when he's played. He just needs to get more minutes. He's been playing around 20 minutes or so. But if you play him a bit more than 20 minutes, like he had 24 minutes against Philly and he scored 42 fantasy points. Kanter could be a really good play tonight. Be a tough matchup against Drummond, but at the price of 3,900, I think Kanter can get enough offensive rebound putbacks to cover that price of 3,900. And then that is about it for me in terms of centers. So I'll quickly go through my lineup here because we are actually at 20 minutes, so I apologize for that. But quickly I'll go through. So we got Lowry and Walker at the point guard positions, Beal and Brooks at the shooting guard positions, Markieff Morris, Jaylen Brown at the small forward positions, Dario Saric, Chris Boucher at the power forward positions, and then lastly we're finishing out with Andre Drummond at the center position. So I'll be posting Twitter updates if I make any changes. So be sure to follow me on Twitter at Fantasy Talk Show. I'll post a link in the description down below. If you have any questions for me, feel free to let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. If you feel like I missed somebody, definitely bring them up in the comments section. Send me a DM on Twitter, whatever you want to do. I love talking basketball. And then we got obviously NFL coming up tomorrow. So I'll be doing a video on that later tonight, and I'll probably post that tomorrow morning. So let's get this money and good luck, everybody.